Hi, my name is Tara Kachataroff, and I'm the host of Michigan Entrepreneur, where we feature businesses from startup to stellar. Today, I have as my special guest Tom Borg, owner and founder of Tom Borg Consulting. Welcome to the program.
Thank you, Tara. It's great to be here.
All right. So today we're going to try something a little bit differently. We are going to be focused on like a grab bag of questions that are really pertinent to people in small businesses and large businesses alike. But before we jump into those questions that are going to be from three different categories of questions, why don't you tell us a little bit about who you are and what you do?
Sure. So I'm a business consultant. I work with a lot of small and mid-sized businesses in the area of helping them with leadership, communication, and culture. So that's my real focus.
All right. Well, today we're going to dive into, again, three different buckets of questions, and they're going to focus on customer service in today's business environment, attracting and retaining quality employees. And the third category is how to instill a positive attitude in your employees while living in a very negative world. So
Mm.
uh, I think you can answer questions in all these areas. We're going to start with the first one, which is customer service. And extremely important. What are two strategies you think are most effective when it comes to providing excellent customer service?
Well, I think it starts with the internal workings of the organization. So the culture, you have to have a great culture within your organization because we do have two sets of customers. We've got the internal customers, that's the people that work for us, and then we have our external customers. And it has been said by plenty of experts that if you don't have a happy internal customer team, they're not going to be doing a very good job of serving your external customers. So first, have that culture, put that top of mind, create the right kind of culture, continually work on that. Second thing is have lots of communication with the people that work for you. And what I mean by that is to have discussions, find out what the company is doing right, what could it be doing better, get their opinions, get their suggestions. I think that's the key. So we're talking about communication with your internal team. That is going to be a major focus. Now, of course, you want to extend that back out to your external customers. Communicate with them on a regular basis. What is it that you're doing right? What is it that you should stop doing? Maybe some things you should start doing. So these are the ways you create and maintain a good customer service oriented environment.
And what I like about what you said is what you're essentially doing is you're modeling the behavior you want not only in the organization, but to flow outside the organization. We can't have like two different personalities and that schism between how we are in the company and how we are when we're communicating outside the company. So if you're not modeling it in the company, you typically will see it manifesting in the customer service team because
That's right.
they only know what they know, and
That's
you
right.
got to educate them on what the culture is. So very, very important. Um, the next thing I'd like to talk to you about is related to the same topic. Is what are some three tips when it comes to delivering exceptional customer experiences? And I ask this in the backdrop of how I've witnessed for myself, as others who I know have witnessed in the past couple of years, and especially this past year, um, of seeing kind of a decline in customer service from companies across the board. Ones that we used to have great customer service from, we can't get a hold of them. Wait times are, 30 minutes, an hour, even more. When you get to the end of a phone tree, it hangs up on you after you've
Mm,
like 18 different like streams of different uh, trails that you followed. Um, Things have definitely changed, and it's not like it used to be. And I've had plenty of experience talking to dozens and dozens of companies in the past year and watching what's going on, and it's a little bit alarming. So
mhm.
I would love to hear from you some tips for delivering exceptional customer service. And they might be obvious, but we're not seeing them in the same way we used to see them.
Right. Well, companies certainly are in under a lot more pressure than they've been in the past. We all know about the shortage of good talent for their organizations. We know about supply chains that have been compromised. There's lots of challenges. Certainly a different environment than it was 2 or 3 years ago. So I think first things first, always like to talk about the 4 questions. We need to answer the 4 questions that our clients or customers have for us. If we can do that successfully, we're gonna do a better job of serving them. So first question they have for us, they're not gonna ask this question, but they have the question, and we need to answer that question. First question is, do you do you like me? Do you like me? Doesn't that sound simple? Yeah, how do we show people that we like them? Well, we smile. We're happy when we see them, or when they're on the telephone. We're happy that they're there. So you have to show people in a genuine way that you do like them. Second question is, do you care about me? So how do you care about people? Well, certainly a good start is to have these surveys. There will be a survey after this phone call. Please answer them and give us your honest feedback. That's great. So you're getting some feedback there. But when you say care, do you go the extra mile for your customers? Do you uh, use their name for heaven's sakes in that conversation with them? You've got it right in front of you on your screen. So,
Yeah.
right? I mean, simple things. Do you really make them feel like they're cared for? Do you really have a warmth in your voice? So these are things that are basic. First 2 questions: Do you like me? Do you care about me? Is the second question. Third question is, can I trust you? Now that's a powerful question that needs to be answered. What do I mean by that? Do you do what you say you're going to do? If there's a problem with the product and you're going to get back with that person, make sure you get back with that person. Make sure you call them back in a timely manner. Give you a short example. I've got my car in a collision shop right now. I had someone bumped into me a couple weeks ago, and I called the shop there after it was delivered. I had the tow truck take it over there, and they said, we'll call you back as soon as we get things rolling here. Uh, Great. Well, a week and a half went by. I didn't hear anything from them. So I called them and asked, how is it going? They said, well, it's in the shop. It's getting started now. We're good. So here's my question. Why didn't they call me like they said they were going to call me, right? So that's one little way of proving that you can be trusted is just do what you say you're going to do. If you're going to follow up with a phone call, make sure you follow up with that phone call. The last question we have to answer for our clients is that do we know what we're doing? And that's demonstrated by how well we perform what we're performing for them. Is the product delivered on time? Is the product going to last? Any and all of these things. So, do we really know what we're doing? That's something that is part of the 4 questions that our customers have for us every time we do business with them. So, if we can answer those 4 questions, that's important.
Yeah, I really like those questions because I do actually see this being played out in one company I deal with extensively, which is Active Campaign.
Hmm.
You get on a chat with them, they ask you how your day is going, and
Nice.
that's a good thing because you're usually like irate by the time you're on chat with somebody to find out about something going on with your mail provider, and it really kind of makes you slow down and stop.
Hmm.
They're really good at following up. They're kind and considerate. They're fast at what they do. Now, it's not all the time, but generally speaking, they are following these things, and it really does make a difference in the experience that I have with them and others. So,
Hmm. And there's a good point, Tara. You don't have to be perfect. There's no company that's perfect, but just be on target more times than you're not, and you're going to be ahead of the game. So you have to be constantly striving to do the very best you can, and at the same time realize nobody's perfect, but that's all right. We can recover if we have enough of I call it the scale of life in a sense. So if you always have more good beans on the one side of the scale that tip it in your favor, in other words, positive experiences for that customer that they've had with your organization, if you have enough of those, more than the negative, you're going to be in better shape. So constantly be striving to do that. So
so
that would be part of it. Go ahead.
so if you could just, and as we wrap up this particular section,
Mhm.
if you could just give one piece of advice to a company about their customer service, any aspect of it, what would you tell them?
Be willing to go the extra mile. Don't stop at just doing the bare minimum. Go a little bit extra, do a little extra, baker's dozen, lagniappe, whatever you want to call it. That would be my main suggestion here.
I had somebody send me a bouquet of flowers as a, I'm sorry, we messed up your appointment and made you late. So that really stuck with me all these years. And that was like 30 years ago. So
Wow.
yeah.
Nice.
All right, so we're gonna kind of wrap that section up. I would love to
Hmm.
talk just about customer service. It's such a big and broad area, but the next one I'd like to talk about a little bit is attracting and retaining quality employees.
Mm.
We both know that this is a serious, serious problem. The reports are coming out now. There's just it's harder and harder to find people. Plus, there's layoffs on top of it all. I mean, it's just like a whole deluge of things going on in the employment
Mm.
world. So, what right now is the most important thing that you would say top thing when it comes to recruiting potential employees right now? What's the key to finding and retaining that amazing employee? Because they're hard to find right now.
Sure, sure. They're hard to find because
Not
we
because
got
there's not good people out there. It's just there seems to be a shortage.
right. I hear what you're saying. I had a client just ask me this the other day, and I told him the person you're looking for, they're looking for a new project manager for their organization. I said that person already exists and they want to work for your company. They just don't know you exist and they're already employed someplace else. So what you need to do is to be able to locate that person so that they can come and work for your organization. Now, how do we make our company so much better than the company this person's already working at? Well, start with your own team first. Ask them, hey, what do you like about working here? What are we doing that's so cool that makes you want to come to work every day?
And it's
What
got
do
to be
you?
more than the salary. You got to
Oh,
listen between the lines. It's not the money.
absolutely.
I mean, the money's great, but you know.
Yeah, money's important, but it's not the top priority for most people. Survey after survey has proven that. Now, the second thing we need to ask our internal employees, hey, how can we make this place better? Really the type of place where other people would just love to come and work here. And we know there are plenty of examples out there of companies that are just like that. They're a great place to work. They provide great perks. It's a great culture. So what we need to do is get honest with our own team and say, hey, what is it we need to do better around here? When do we need to get better at? Okay, great. So once we know what we're doing right and what we need to get better at, and let's make those improvements, that's what you want to communicate to potential candidates. Hey, here's a great place to work, and here's why. And you don't have to tell them, let your employees do the talking. What I mean by that is I've seen this on different websites. You go out there and you check out the website of this company and you have the employees. Employees are giving testimonials about how much they like working at that organization. That can be very convincing. It can be very convincing. So I think the key here is to be able to just go inside first, find out what you're doing right, what you need to get better at, and then get that word out to the people that are potential candidates. And like I'm telling you, they're not going to be looking for you on Craigslist. They're going to be already gainfully employed,
Yeah.
and we need to be able to get that communication, that message out to them where they can see it.
And that means you also have to be where these folks are. I mean, if they're on Instagram, you better be out on Instagram. If you're on
Hmm.
Facebook, you better be doing it that way. And I'm not really sure what people are doing in terms of like virtual meet and greets, but I know they're out there, and some companies are actively taking part in that so that they can meet employees because a lot of people are still remote. So,
Hmm.
got to do the far reaching things so you can even recruit nationally for Michigan.
Absolutely. Well, another thing that's very popular, works very well, is check with your own employees first. Say, who do you know? I
Yeah.
mean, if you got
Mhm.
good people know other good people.
That's
Say,
right.
who do you know? And not doesn't matter if they're working someplace else. Who do you know that would like to work at a place like you're working at? And I have a number of my clients, that's what they do on a regular basis. They get a steady stream. They're not hurting for employees. Okay. Get
Yeah.
this very
Mhm.
clear here. There's a lot of companies out there that are not hurting for top talent because they're doing the right things on a consistent basis to attract and retain those people.
And
But it takes takes work.
they
Go
also
ahead.
know, like, if you hire, friends of friends, they retain people, they have better retention for everybody because people don't wanna leave organizations where they already have, like, solid, relationships with people. So those friendships
Absolutely.
do make a difference. Um,
Absolutely.
it's not necessarily making a clique, but it's keeping some really good people together because they wanna work with their friends and or
It's
at least
creating
be,
sure, sure.
having something shared in common. We like people who are like ourselves and who work at the same organization. I mean,
Mhm. It's
yeah.
creating a family. It's creating a
Yep,
family.
it
That's what you're
is.
talking about. It's a work family.
It is. So, what about some of the like when you had mentioned about asking people in your organization who they know? Um, that brings up the thing about even, compensating people and giving them those bonuses for bringing in a friend. Those things make a difference. Because they can get rewarded too. And I think you should reward people for bringing people in the door. It's expensive to hire people. It costs
Mm-hmm.
thousands and thousands of dollars.
Mm-hmm.
So that's also a great thing you can
Let
do.
me add an additional comment onto that. So one of my clients reported to me how they handle that, and that is they do give an incentive to their employees if they can attract some of their friends to come work for their organization. And here's how they do it. They just don't pay them $50 one time and that's it, right? What they do is they will pay them on a monthly basis for as long as that person is employed at that company. In other words, when that person invites a friend to come to work, they come to work. As long as that friend stays at that company, that person who referred that person to the company, they will collect a monthly incentive.
I love that. I love that. It's like an affiliate fee.
Hmm.
I love
Hmm.
that for a subscription. I like that because it reminds you of what value you brought into that company. And
Hmm.
it also makes you kind of check in with your friend or friends and make sure everything's going well because you want them to stay and you want to help them. So I think there's just so many like unspoken things that are going to come around from doing that. That's brilliant. I have
Hmm.
not heard about that. That's
Hmm.
great. Wow.
And now I had
Very
mentioned
impressive.
that to another client. He said, well, that can be expensive. Well, Tara, just like you said a moment ago, hey, it's even more expensive to,
It
to lose an employee, right? And to try to find somebody else. So,
Yeah, I mean, when you run the numbers, because I used to do those kinds of numbers when I was an
hmm.
analyst, oh my gosh, the churn and what it costs you. And like 30 years ago, it was costing like six, $7,000 a month, like or
Wow.
per hire, like to lose
Hmm.
somebody. It was expensive, not to mention the intellectual property run, walking out the door and
Hmm.
just the wear and tear in the organization, which people just don't have the time to invest. Uh, in the non income producing parts of the company to go
Hmm.
look for people, interview people. I mean, it takes so much time and nobody
Hmm.
has time right now. We all got to do it now, now, now.
That's right.
All right. So, one more question around this. What are some attractive things besides like these incentives that might be attractive to people coming into companies? Now, I know in the past they'd have like ping pong games and this and that. Back in the day, tents you could sleep in on your lunch hour and stuff like that. But what are people doing today to make that culture inside the company attractive? Besides giving things like gym memberships and things like that. What have you seen?
Well, I think one of the best places to start with that approach is to do a survey. Ask your people one on one, what is it you like about working here? What are some of the perks you appreciate? Because just because you think a person might want some movie passes doesn't mean they want movie passes or they want a particular perk of some kind. But we're all about communication here. Ask the people that work for you, what are the things that you would enjoy that would make you excited about working here? Maybe it's bringing your dog to work with you, or I don't know, but you ask these people and let them tell you, and then do what's possible, gather up the suggestions, and create that kind of a culture where people are creating the culture they want. You see, remember, people don't argue with their own data. If you ask people what they want, they'll tell you. And that's what we want. Don't guess. I tell my clients, don't guess what your employees want. Ask them.
All right. Yeah, very, very good advice. So now we're going to wrap that area up, attracting and retaining quality employees. And we're going to move on to the next one, which is positive attitude at work. How can we instill that in our employees and our new hires who are coming on board when we're living in kind of a negative world at times?
Hmm.
So the first question is, how would you recommend companies support individuals, especially in today's like volatile, uncertain world?
Hmm. Well, first things first, I think we need to go back and look at what are we providing for them as resources. I often tell my clients, where's your library? In other words, you have a company library of resources that your people can access. Maybe it's downloads of audio programs they can listen to on the way back and forth to work or at home. Do they have books in that library that people could access? Things about how to handle stress, how to do certain things that'll just allow them to be on a growth curve, constantly learning, developing new tools. And we should not stop learning once we start working with the organization. We should look at that as just the beginning and get on this track of being able to acquire new knowledge, new skill sets, and that all rolls in a person's career path or career ladder in that organization. But the key is to provide resources, additional resources they can have access to. That's the first place I would look. Secondly, there's a lot of stress out there. We know that today. When was the last time we did a stress quotient assessment on each one of our employees? Find out where they're hurting, where they are having inordinate amount of stress in their lives. Once we do that inventory, then we can start helping them find the right resources that'll help them manage that. Maybe it's bringing in an outsider to do stress management program. Maybe in some cases, Tara, maybe we need to refer that person over to some counseling, some additional counseling that the company can provide through an outside resource. There's a lot of stress at home, right? We family problems, issues. Maybe there's health problems or health issues that that person's dealing with, or maybe it's an elderly parent that they're caring for or worried about. So these are things that we need to be aware of and then provide some type of resources for them to have access to that will allow them to stay on a positive curve. It's been said, I think it was Les Brown that said this once. You don't ask for help because you're weak. You ask for help because you want to remain strong. So if we can provide those resources for people to keep them strong, that's the approach I'd recommend.
Yeah, I like what you said about put the focus on the strength rather than weaknesses and shoring up weaknesses. Also, I like that. So they have a stress quotient assessment that you can use
Hmm.
in the company.
Sure, that's what I use with my clients. Hmm.
Wow. Okay. So does it break it out into like the different parts of your life, like kind of like the life wheel? Is it kind of focused on that? And then with
What it does is it zeroes in on what are first I'll find out what the stress levels are, and
Mhm.
then zeroes into certain areas where it's coming from. And then we recommend the assessment also will recommend certain things that person can do to compensate or to deal with that stress, to
Oh,
neutralize it.
I like
Yeah.
that. I
Hmm.
like that. Also, I'd like to ask you a little question about employee assistance programs, EAPs. I assume now they're probably even more accessible than they used to be, especially in the past 3 years. Are you finding that your clients are accessing those kinds of resources, even the smaller clients? Are they buying into like programs where they can refer out to remote EAPs?
I have not seen that as much as it should be out there, frankly. There are some companies that have that service available, but I don't think it's being used as it should be used. But for the most part, I don't see it being used to the extent it can be.
Yeah, because I remember, at working for large organizations, we always had a resource like that. And I'll
Hmm.
tell you, if the smaller companies are not using that, I mean, there's a big opportunity there for companies in that space to get that
Hmm.
to the smaller companies on subscription plans that can serve their population. So
I agree with you. I think a lot of smaller companies might look at that as an expense they don't want to take on at this time. But at the same time, it's certainly something that would be a wise investment just because if that employee is as important as they say he or she is, well, retaining that person and making sure the person is able to be productive and healthy, I think that would be a wise investment.
what are you seeing, especially in the smaller businesses that you're dealing with? Well, actually, you deal small to medium size and large businesses, but what are you seeing with the kinds of things that they're doing internally? Because I'm sure they're seeing stress on their stress within their populations, and it's great that they have this inventory that they can run their folks through. But what other kinds of things are you seeing these companies do that can support that are supporting their employees?
Well, I think one of the main things, the good ones, are communicating and doing internal focus groups, finding out what they can do better, what are some of the things they're doing right, like I mentioned earlier. So they're staying on top of it. They're communicating. Now, I am seeing other companies that are doing just the opposite. They're burying their head.
Mhm.
They are talking about bringing people back. They're getting a lot of resistance from people that don't want to come back and work out of the office. They're happy working from home, and that that's not going away right now. There are a lot of companies that have a lot of vested interest in bringing people back their to their office, and the ones that are resisting that, the companies that are resisting the fact that their employees want and like to work from home, I think they're going to have some more problems. That if they don't address that quick, they're going to have some increased turnover. And I'm seeing that right now. I'm seeing it right now. Some of these companies out there, they're just not getting it, and there's consequences that are going to be part of that choice of the way they like to look at that situation.
Yeah, and I wanna just spend the last 2 minutes of our time continuing to focus on that area since that was
Hmm.
my last question. I'm kinda curious about, like, these when you have an employee who's a really good employee and they wanna work from home and they are not in anything that's disruptive to the team, um, and they're doing a good job, I really honestly do not understand why they can't allow that person to continue working at home.
Hmm.
It's beyond me. I don't get it, but what do you think might be operating behind that? Um, what do you
Well,
think might be going
they're
on?
afraid. They're afraid that these people are not going to be accountable, that they're not going to do the work they're supposed to be doing.
Even though
Uh,
they've been doing it for several years? I mean,
yeah,
they
I know. It's just this. It's a fear. It's a fear factor. And at the same time, I've got one client right now who just left her company
mhm,
because of that. She, a financial person, has many people reporting to her, and she saw her people leaving because they did not want to come back to the office. And she finally got to the point where she wasn't going to take it anymore either. And she wasn't about to change the company's philosophy. They have over 300 people right here in Michigan, and they require them to come to the office, or they're trying to get them to come to the office. And well, here's my point: fear. That's the main concern. They're fear they're gonna lose out. The people aren't going to do their job properly, and also I think it's ego. It's hey, it's I'm the boss. You know,
mhm,
we work by the golden rule. Those people who have the gold rules, that's the way they look at it. And you can't do that. You can't win that tug of war. You got to look at the facts. People like working from home. It costs less to drive back and forth to work, less stress for sure,
mhm.
and they have more time, for heaven's sakes. And we're finding people are putting in, unfortunately, more time on the job because they're working from home. So the companies that are getting that, they are moving ahead, and I see that to be the case for many companies that are moving forward with this whole concept. They're letting their people work from home, creating policies around the whole thing. So they're accepting, they're embracing that reality. The ones that don't, I I just don't see a positive outcome for them if they continue down that road.
The thing is the people who do wanna work from home, they're happy with that situation.
Hmm.
And the thing is if they have to come back in, well, they're not going to do it, so you're gonna lose them. You're gonna have high turnover costs, and they're proving that they're happy. So why would you wanna make them unhappy and then bring them back to the office and then to contaminate the culture? I don't
Hmm.
get stuff like that, but I honestly don't. Um,
Hmm.
it's sad to see. I wish that they could give people choice. My own sister, she works for a fantastic company, and by her not having to come into the office, she saves literally 4 hours of commute time because that's what her commute is: 2 hours one way, 2 hours the other
Wow.
way. So she has saved over the past 3 years 4 hours a day of commute time.
Wow. That's
And
20 hours a week.
it is, and guess
How
what?
much is that per
She's giving
year?
more to the company. She's the
Ah.
senior person on the team. She gives more to the company. They allow her, in fact, their boss, the company, listen to this, the company allows them, each each manager, to make the determination about what they want to do with their team. So their manager said, "You can all work at home." Other managers say, "You all got to come in." So they left that autonomy to the manager. Unfortunately, she has a manager with 8 kids who doesn't want to come back to the office because it's easier to stay home and work from there. So
Absolutely.
it's worked out really, really well for her, and I'm glad that this company is more concerned, and they're getting an extra at least 15 more hours out of her in terms of work.
See?
She's senior
Great.
in a
Mm.
finance team, so
Hmm.
happy employee, they stay forever.
That's right. Yeah, I think that's what we're going to see in the future. I think we'll see companies get that and move in that direction just because it works.
All right. Well, I want to thank you so much. We've come to the end of our time. We had a great discussion about a grab bag of questions. I really appreciate it. If you could give just one last piece of advice to entrepreneurs, what would it be? Or to people running an organization, what would it be?
I would go by that old axiom and to have that decision maker or that team leader or the president ask this question: what kind of a company would this company be if everyone in it were just like me?
Oh, wow. That's great. Well, thanks for that piece of advice, Tom Borg of Tom Borg Consulting. Thank you so much for being a guest on today's Michigan Entrepreneur.
My pleasure.
If you'd like more information about our program, please visit us at www.michiganentrepreneurtv.com. Please join me again in the future when I interview another enterprising entrepreneur. Until then, wishing you the best of business.